There's a line in an 11th century Royal Sanskrit architecture treatise, a text written for kings, not mystics, that describes one specific ground slope pattern with the same severity of language the tradition reserves for its single gravest spiritual transgression. Not bad luck. Not minor inconvenience. The harshest classification in the whole moral vocabulary. The direction that triggers it, southwest. Quick note up front, this connects several classical texts across this archive, spanning close to 1,000 years and different lineages. It's not one source's claim, and none of it is structural engineering or safety advice. Just a pattern worth understanding. Here's the reframe that makes all of it make sense, at least according to these texts. Southwest isn't marked as dangerous because it's cursed. It's marked as sensitive because it's a container. In the classical model, the 5 elements settle outward from a site's center by density. Air, the lightest, drifts to the northwest, fire settles southeast, water, northeast, and earth, the heaviest of all, settles southwest. That's the whole premise, as these texts frame it. Southwest isn't special because something bad lives there. It's special because it's holding the heaviest thing on the site. And once something is being held, what matters in this framework is whether the container stays sealed. In one modern applied manual's deity door table, a table that grades every zone of the site by what happens if a door lands there, every single zone gets a graded consequence. Loss of wealth here, quarrels there, disease somewhere else. Every zone, except one. The southwest zone doesn't get a graded consequence. According to that table, it gets one word, rapid decay. That could be one modern author's flourish, except it isn't. Translating Boja's original 11th century Sanskrit text directly for this research, a completely separate lineage, 900 years earlier, names the southwest-oriented house type and glosses it, in its own words, exactly the same way. There, always fear of death. 2 texts. 2 eras. 2 transmission lines that never quote each other. Same specific claim. But the clearest evidence isn't the scary line, it's a control group, and it's sitting in that same Sanskrit text. There's a chapter cataloging 72 house types, organized by which single wing of the house is missing. Miss the north wing, and the type is still called excellent, its 18 name variants are all named after gold. Miss the east wing, same story, prosperity, abundance. But miss the south wing, and the type is called wealth destroying, with variants named things like lifeless and hundredfold. Miss the west wing, and it's called family ruining, with variants named demon and joyless. Same exact architectural defect, one wall missing, and by this text's own naming system, the verdict flips entirely depending only on which wall it is. Here's the part that actually surprised me putting this together. You'd assume a missing wall, an open corner, an L-shaped house, is the worst thing that can happen to a container. Across the sources I looked at, it's not. Ground level defects and doorway defects consistently get harsher language than missing walls do. Uneven ground pulls out the graveyard language and the tradition's single harshest severity rating. A single door in the wrong spot pulls out that one word, rapid decay. A missing wall, architecturally the more drastic fault, gets instability and enmity. Serious, but a notch down in these texts. Which tracks, if you think about it as a container, the ground is the floor, the door is the seal. Compromise either one end, by this logic, it doesn't matter how good the walls are. So if you're translating this reading into an actual house, here's what these texts suggest is worth checking, roughly in order of how seriously they take it, not as a renovation mandate, just as context. 1. Is the ground physically lower in the southwest than the northeast, even a subtle grade? That's the floor of the container, in this model. 2. Is there a door or major opening cut directly into the southwest corner? That's the seal. 3. And this one matters less than people assume. Is the southwest corner architecturally missing, an L-shape or a cut corner? Worth knowing about, but every source here treats it as the lesser issue, not the crisis. A few honest caveats. This connects a modern applied manual, a different modern source on elemental symbolism, and an original 11th century Sanskrit text I translated directly for this project, 3 different lineages that this archive doesn't connect for you. That synthesis is mine, built while doing the actual translation work. And to be clear, none of this is a claim that an uneven backyard will hurt anyone. It's a reading of what a specific textual tradition says, presented as exactly that. So no, southwest was never the bad direction, at least not the way it usually gets talked about. It's the direction doing the most work, holding the heaviest thing on the site, which is exactly why the tradition reserves its harshest language for what happens if you don't take care of it. There's a shorter cut of this coming if you want the fast version. Subscribe for the rest of the Directions series, and tell me in the comments, Northeast next, or back to the city analysis thread.